get with this because the whole thing is I want to go into the fact that Abram was a Hebrew. He wasn't an Arab. He didn't speak Arabic.
No, Hebrew.
So let me now get back into.
All right, I'll give you 10 minutes, and you give me 10 minutes.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I'm going to take as long as I need to bring out this history, and then you can refute any of the history that I bring forth. You've already brought forth that Muhammad was the prophet written of in Deuteronomy 18, and I went into the Bible to show that that's absolutely incorrect. So we can't even go there until you can show us Muhammad out of the Bible being the prophet that was set up by under Israel. Then I'll be waiting for that. But in the meantime, I'm going to go into some history. I got a book called Satan's Angels Exposed. All right, one book I have called Satan Angels Exposed. And I have another book going into some history called From Babylon to Timbuktu. I need y'all to follow us clearly to see what was going on in Persia in the Middle East before Muhammad was born. All right? Now, before Muhammad was born, there was no such thing as a religion called Islam. The Jews and the Israelites already had their Torah. They had their Tanakh. They had their prophets. Christ already came. Okay, the discipleship was already established. The prophecies of future events were already written. All right? And again, Muhammad is not written nowhere in the Bible. Now, when you go into the book From Babylon to Timbuktu, and you notice, in order for them to get any type of validity, they must go into the Bible to try to get credibility through the Bible. Why? Because if you can't show Muhammad out of the Bible, then why should we be following this guy? So that's why they went to these great lengths to try to pull Muhammad out of the Bible when he's not written nowhere in it. Now, and then on the other hand, they'll say, well, Muhammad is written of in the Bible, and then the same people that try to discredit the Bible will tell you, well, we don't follow the Bible is tampered with. So you pick and choose and extrapolate based on your belief. Now, in the book From Babylon to Timbuktu, it reads, I'm on page 45, it reads, when Muhammad was born, many Arabs were still worshiping the sun, stars, spirits, and idols. The Arabs possessed 360 idols, one for each day of the year. Muhammad was born 570 AD. 4 years after the death of Emperor Justinian. He was a descendant from the tribe of Quraysh and the family of Hashem. His mentality was prodigious. In his youth, he was never taught to read or write, but his imagination was superlative. Muhammad was an extraordinarily handsome man, an eloquent, let me get this here, one moment, because there's a piece I want to pull out of here. It says, let me jump right to it. It says he was an eloquent and motivating man with the power of words. In the early years of Muhammad's life, he passed his time as a shepherd's boy. We must remember that most successful men have risen from insignificant and humble conditions. Watching the sun by day and the stars by night left opportunity for Muhammad to contemplate in solitude and reflect on the events of profundities of this world. After Muhammad became a camel driver, are y'all with me here? After Muhammad became a camel driver, he traveled to remote and intriguing lands. He led his caravans to Persia, Syria, Egypt, transacting business with merchants of every kind. On his business trips, he met Jews, Christians, and members of other sects. He interrogated them concerning the tenets of their religions. He frequented the environment of the Jews and their rabbis. That means he started hanging around the Israelites. mostly because they were merchants and an omnipresent ethnic group. Because he could not read or write, his ears were attentive and keen to everything that the Jews related to him. Muhammad learned and extracted much from the Jew religion and compounded it with this new religion, Islam. Now there's more. What happened after that? I'm going to jump right to it. So now that Muhammad made his new religion, he got upset that the Jews who taught him about one God did not want to acknowledge his new religion. So what did he do in turn? Let me read. I need y'all to follow me clearly, and I'm going to give you the pages I'm reading from. I'm reading from page 48 from Babylon to Timbuktu. History. It says, the Prophet Muhammad adopted many principles and laws from the Jew religion. First of all, the basic idea of monotheism, which is the belief in one God. Now that's interesting that it says this in this book, because we didn't need someone to tell us there was only one God. We understood this before Muhammad was born. We taught him about one God. The people he needed to bring his religion to were his own people, the Arabs, because they had one God for each day of the year. So we didn't need this new religion he was bringing, because we already understood there was one God. That's number one. And it says, the Jew confession of the unity of God is Shema Yasha Allah Allahaya Nawa Ahaya Akkad, which means, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. We say that every Sabbath. The Muhammadan slogan is as follows: La Allah Ilah Allah Allah Muhammad Rasul Allah. So they seen what we did every Sabbath with the Shema Yasha Allah Allahaya Nawa Ahaya Akkad, and they made their own slogan. So that means if there was no such thing as a Jew slogan or an Israelite slogan, there would be no such thing as an Arab slogan. What came first? There's more. Their credo is saying there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the prophet of Allah. Now imagine what's going on with the Israelites who taught Muhammad everything he known at this time. How can he switch the Israelites' credo into a credo including himself as a prophet? There's more. It says Muhammad adopted also the main details of the Jew calendar, the Day of Atonement, the Sabbath, much of the Bible, and narratives from the Midrash, and many points of the ritual law, including the Jews pray 3 times a day facing the city of Jerusalem, and the Muslims, true believers, pray 5 times a day facing the city of Mecca. Trying his best, Muhammad sought to convert the Jews to his new religion, but to no avail. That means we wasn't listening to him. How can we just taught you and you're going to bring us something? What's wrong with you? We just taught you about one God. You started hanging around us and you want us to acknowledge what you're dealing with? No, you're going to take that to your people. We already know there's a God. We already understand Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Christ, the disciples. We know who the prophets are. Okay? Now there's more. The Jews was adamant and resistant to change. That means they didn't want to hear Muhammad. The high esteem which the prophet held for the Jews was transformed to enmity. So he turned the respect he had for our foreparents to enmity. He started hating us. And instead of allies, he looked upon the Jews as competitors. Muhammad needed the confirmation of the influential Jews to validate his own mission. As all upstarts need the backing of someone influential. So Muhammad felt that if the Jews did not back his new religion, it would not gain the power as a political structure within the region. So he wanted us to co-sign his new religion, and we rejected it. So what did Muhammad do? Muhammad therefore turned against the Jews and became their tormentor. He started fighting and warring against the Jews. The offspring of Judaism are Christianity and Islam. Now history was repeating itself. It says Muhammad tried to construct his religion as closely as he could after the Jew religion. He favored the Jews by accepting many of their laws and traditions. When the Jews refused to be converted, he commanded his followers to stop turning to the holy city of Jerusalem in prayer, but rather to turn to the city of Mecca. So at one point, the Middle East was facing Jerusalem, and because his disdain against our people not following Islam, he made his followers face Mecca. Before that, Mecca was a trade port. It was a place you go to trade and make money. It was not a holy place for worship before Muhammad did this in history. Now, this is history here. He changed the Jew Day of Atonement or fast day, which he had accepted for the month of Ramadan. Muhammad changed the Sabbath from Saturday to Friday. We have another parallel with Christianity. In the 4th century, the church changed the Sabbath to Sunday and reorganized its calendar. So what is Rudolph R. Windsor bringing here with this history? He's bringing the fact that both on pagan sides are not acknowledging the Sabbath in its entirety. The Christians are not doing it because they only worship on Sunday and make that the main day. And the Muslims are not doing it because they deal with Friday to Friday sundown instead of dealing with from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. All these practices have history. Okay? Now, if we're going to talk about what religion one should follow, we should follow what came before Muhammad was born. Now there's something else. The birth of Islam, and I'm in a book called Satan's Angels Exposed. All right? This is history you can actually research yourself, and I'm on page 89 in Satan's Angels Exposed. And I want to go in, I'm only going to pull out a few points of what the Kaaba is really about. It says, Muhammad was born in Mecca about 570 AD into a poor family in a country that was 3/4 desert. Mecca derived profit both as a religious and commerce center for caravans traveling annually to South Arabia. Now, I'm going to jump right here to page 91. The Arab, matter of fact, let me go up here a little bit. It says Muhammad himself had 10 wives. Other Muslims were permitted 4. The Arab of that day worshiped many gods of the sky, stars and the moon, and even what they believed were sacred stones. The center of this stone reverence was in Mecca. A square structure of stone in Mecca became their holy